FPL watch list, because end of the day, when we're building a watch list ahead of game week 1, we want to just isolate the players that we particularly want to target, and that is the beauty of the FPL watch list. I have got 44 players on my list that have been each of them at least once in my team. And in today's video, I just want to deep dive into each specific player that is on my watch list. And of course, get some recommendations from you guys on whether there are a few players that maybe I am missing on that watch list in particular. So again, if you are new around here, guys, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. As you've noticed, there is usually daily content. There was a day missed yesterday, but we are back to daily content from today. So make sure, if you're not already, smash the subscribe button. And if you're watching this back, make sure to drop a like on the video. And of course, if you're tuning in live right now, please do consider dropping a like on the live stream. It's always massively appreciated. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to be going through mainly my watch list, which includes 44 players, also building a couple of drafts depending on what directions we go for. But it'd be great to hear what kind of players are on your current FPL watch list. And of course, let me know your thoughts on the drafts that I'll be building, because we'll be going through different variations out there right now. So this will also be a Q&A. Get your questions in the comments. If you're watching this back, put them in the comment section of the video. I will be sure to answer them over the next 24 hours or so. I can see 57 players already in the chat who are doing well. Nico asking Haaland or no Haaland in your opinion. We will come on to that, Nico, no problem. Rio, Cheekster, FPL Uproar. Hope you guys are having an amazing evening wherever you are in the world. I've got slightly sunburnt myself playing golf today. A bit of a nightmare. So without further ado, enough waffling. Let's get into my current watch list. Can't talk today. So I wanted to go into this. So first and foremost, if you guys didn't know, you can actually build a watch list in FPL. Quite a lot of people don't know about this. And during pre-season in particular, this is something that I use all the time. So I think it is really, really important to really kind of cancel all of the noise. There's hundreds of players in the game, and you're naturally going to be tempted to be drawn to tons and tons of options. What I like to do is build a watch list, ideally less than 50 players, because of course we can only have 15 players in our game week 1 squad. So I like to build a watch list with less than 50, 50. Gives me an idea of exactly the players I'm targeting, and it means that I'm not desperately running around on each team trying to convince myself that the player is a good asset. I think realistically there are probably less than 50 truly great assets in the game, and that's why I have built them on my watch list. So for those that don't know how to get your current watch list, and you probably don't have anybody in your watch list right now, you need to come over to the transfers section. If you select that, then we'll come over to the all players section at the top here that you can see. If you hit that and go onto the drop down section, you will see that we have the options available. I'm not sure if it's coming up on your screen, so I do apologize. But what you'll have once you click the all players section is you'll have an option below it called watch list. If you select that, that will bring up your current watch list. So if you want to add players to your watch list, what you need to do is select a player, like for example, Ben White, and you will see at the bottom here, add to watch list. So that is really important. If you think that Ben White is an option for your teams going into game week 1, you simply click add to watch list. Then we come back to the all players section in the top right hand corner. And I apologize, the drop down menu isn't working for some reason on the live stream. But once you click that, you will have an option called watch list. If you select that, you will then come up with your selection of players, which of course you can see on your screens has included Ben White. But for this video, I'm not going to include Ben White because he hasn't been in any of my drafts. And personally, I think there are better value players in the game that we can target. So for that reason, he is going to come off the watch list, and you simply just click that button from remove watch list. So what we're going to do right now is just go through the players that are currently on my watch list and give you a bit of a reasoning behind it, and hopefully maybe some players that you haven't considered could appear on your watch list. And as I mentioned, once we go through each position, goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders and forwards, if there are any players that I've missed that you really think should be on this watch list, please do let me know, because that is the beauty of the watch list. It is ever changing and we can always adapt it, because if a player gets injured or suddenly doesn't really look that good in pre-season, we can take him off the watch list. And the same applies if somebody emerges as a great option. We can add them to the watch list. Corbin saying, how do you add players to your watch list? All you have to do is go to the information section of a player. So let's take someone like Declan Rice, for example. If you bring up this page, at the bottom, it will say add to watch list. Simply click that button and it will put them in your watch list. And as I mentioned, in order to access your watch list, you need to go, I apologize, the drop down menu isn't working. If you go to the section where it says view all players, if you click on that, and then there'll be an option for watch list, click on that, and that will have all of the players that are in your team. DJ, I'm doing very well, my friend. Hope you are as well. Naturally finishing top 1K this season. Fingers crossed. For a bit of context, obviously last season wasn't a great season, but for those that are new around here, I did 3 seasons ago finish 270th in the world, which is always going to be my bragging rights. Obviously a bit of luck, but it was a good season nonetheless. Hopefully we can replicate that this season, fingers crossed. So without further ado, let's get into my current watch list. And we're going to go for the goalkeepers right now, because I think this is a really interesting section right now on who in particular to target. So we're going to narrow that down. And you can see here that I've only got 4 goalkeepers on my list. We've got Jordan Pickford. Let me put this by price, apologies. We got Raya at top price at 5.5 million. He's the only 5.5 million on my watch list. Pickford at 5. And then we've got Henderson, and a player that might not be too known by a lot of people is going to be Carlos Miguel dos Santos Pereira. Hopefully I got that right. This is, of course, the new Nottingham Forest goalkeeper who everybody mentions is 6'8", an absolute monster. And we are expecting, with the fact that they've signed this goalkeeper, for him to come in at number 1. But again, this is the whole point of the watch list. We put players on that have got our attention, and we can easily take them off the watch list if, for example, in pre-season, he gets no minutes and isn't a consideration for our teams. Now, of course, for goalkeepers, we obviously want to look at the fixtures. There's opportunity for them to get save points. And of course, more importantly, can they actually keep clean sheets? So I think the general consensus right now is that a lot of managers, including myself, are looking to do a wildcard between game weeks 4 and game weeks 8 over that period. I think that is enough time to get enough information to completely change the team up and use our wildcard, especially with the chances we have now of rolling transfers up to 5 times. So that is really important. So I'm only really looking between game weeks 1 and game weeks 8 maximum. So when I look at Nottingham Forest's goalkeeper here, we've got Bournemouth, Southampton, Wolves in the opening 3, which are fantastic fixtures. Now, yes, game weeks 4 and 5 in particular aren't ideal, but game week 6 is fine against Fulham, Chelsea away in game week 7, followed by Crystal Palace in game week 8. Yes, of course, over an 8-week fixture, there are some tricky games there, but I think on the balance, there are enough good fixtures there to think to ourselves that Carlos Miguel dos Santos Pereira is actually a consideration for our teams. And I really do think that he is a brilliant option for our teams that not many people are considering at 1.4% ownership. But of course, Sells being at Nottingham Forest, we need to understand who is actually going to be the number 1 right now. So that is why Nottingham Forest's Carlos, not going to say it again, is in my current watch list. The other 4.5 million goalkeeper is going to be Dean Henderson at Crystal Palace. Now, again, no complete certainty who is going to be number 1 because, of course, we also have Sam Johnson, who is an excellent goalkeeper. But right now, I do think that he is going to be number 1 for Crystal Palace. And again, our watch list can change. We can do whatever we want with it. If Dean Henderson isn't number 1, we can simply put Sam Johnson on our watch list. Now, again, a reason why he is on my watch list is mainly because I think Crystal Palace are a good team. And secondly, the fixtures, while they're a little bit mixed, have enough good fixtures for me to justify bringing in someone like Dean Henderson, who also has avenues to save points. So Brentford, West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester, Man United, Everton, Liverpool, Forest. I probably would say that Forest's opening fixtures are actually better than Crystal Palace's, but I also look at those fixtures and think to myself, there definitely are opportunities for save points, therefore potential monster hauls for someone like Crystal Palace's Dean Henderson. So he's going to be the other 4.5 million option. Robert Sanchez was on there, but of course Chelsea signed a new goalkeeper. He is gone. Also, Verbruggen, we don't know the injury status of him right now, so that is why he's not included. And Mark Flecken is also a consideration, but not really on my radar right now, mainly because Brentford have really tricky fixtures. So the last 2 goalkeepers, Pickford at 5 million. You guys that watch my videos will know I hate spending money on goalkeepers. I think 4.5 million is enough. I think there will always be one 4.5 million goalkeeper that is just worthwhile, because goalkeepers, clean sheets are the most important thing. but we have to take into consideration save points and bonus points. And a goalkeeper like Pickford last season, playing in a relegation team like Everton, was the perfect recipe for points. And I do believe another 4.5 million will emerge, which means we don't have to spend 5 million on a goalkeeper. But Pickford is my favourite at 5 million. The fixtures long term are brilliant for Everton, and we know Jordan Pickford is great for save points. Finally, the other 5.5, my favourite by far, is going to be Raya. Alisson at Liverpool, no chance. That blocks a spot in that Liverpool attack that may go off under Arne Slot. And he's cheaper than the defenders. Saliba and Gabriel coming in at 6 million. Ben White at 6.5. I'd much rather, most likely, just go to David Raya at 5.5. So those are the current goalkeepers on the watch list. You can see at the very far end. Raya, Pickford, Henderson and Carlos Miguel. Right now, I'm leaning towards Miguel at Nottingham Forest, but I can't lie. I have no guarantees right now who is actually my goalkeeper. This is the one that is really up for debate. I haven't put up any 4 million goalkeepers just because I can't lie. None of them are actually options in the game. That's why I haven't put any on my watch list. But I probably would lean towards Fabianski right now, if anybody. I think that is probably the route I would go for. So next up, moving into the defenders. And we will do a bit of a draft build at the end. But I do want to pre-warn you, I will be dropping a team selection video tomorrow morning going through my current team selection. Because what you can see on your screens right now isn't my current draft, it is a previous version of that draft. And before we get into the defenders, I just want to quickly check the chat just to see if there's any questions regarding the goalkeepers, as I'm conscious I don't want to skip past those. So Crystal Palace fans apparently prefer Johnston, but Henderson is likely to start the season. Okay, that is some good information from Crown there. I will have to do a bit more digging on that, but it's a great suggestion there in the Crystal Palace ranks. Morse Tretnik, hope you're doing well, my friend. Dan, surely Raya plus Munoz is better than Henderson and Saliba. So Raya obviously cheaper than Saliba, and Munoz offers real great attacking potential in that team at 5 million. So I probably would agree. Yes, I think that is probably a better combination. 5.5 million plus 5, 10.5 for that combination, or of course 10.5 for Henderson and Saliba. On the face of it, I think I would prefer Raya and Munoz in my team, just because of the attacking potential that Munoz offers. Any more goalkeeper suggestions? More attacking upside and no standout 4.5 million goalkeeper. Thoughts on Archie Gray for Spurs? We will come on to that in a bit, no doubt. Any questions about midfielders? We'll come on to that in a minute. No clean sheet upside and no outstanding 5.5 million goalkeeper. George is saying, Tom said Fab don't start for West Ham. Yes, I totally agree. But also none of the 4 million goalkeepers unfortunately start for their respective teams right now. So we're just going to put any old goalkeeper at 4 million. And right now I don't see any West Ham assets that I want to go for. So I'm happy to use one of those spots up for Fabianski in my team. Onana could be a shout for the save points. I agree. Man United's defence was woeful last season. And if we were to take a look at the goalkeeper department, Onana is coming in right now at 5 million. And with the fixtures coming up, they're a little bit mixed, but there are enough good fixtures to think that there could be potential for Onana at 5 million. But I'm not a huge fan of investing in Onana until I see Man United's defence actually improve. Plenty of questions on the goalkeepers, which is great. So we'll cover these off before we actually go into the the defender section. So we've also got JMO saying, cover that one. Animations, very well, my friend. What about Leno? Don't mind Leno, but he's 5 million. And looking at the opening fixtures for Fulham, yes, there are a couple of good ones, but United away, Newcastle at home, Man City away, Villa at home. I don't love the fixtures. For that reason, I'm not that tempted by Bernd Leno. But I could be wrong because, of course, last season he was one of the highest scoring one of the highest scoring goalkeepers in the game for those save points. So I don't mind him, but I haven't really been tempted by him right now because I think there are actually better 4.5 million options than 5. And again, guys, if you are new around here, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. We're aiming for 16k before game week 1. It's a big ask. We're currently about 15.4. Big ask. But if you're watching this right now, you're enjoying the stuff, please do smash the subscribe button. It's always massively appreciated. Right, we have to rattle through these because I was aiming for this to be a 30-minute video and it might be a little bit touch tight. So we're going to move into the defenders right now because I think that is quite an important section on the watch list. Let me get that up for you right now. Hopefully you can see that on your screens. There are a couple more that we will come on to on page 2 for the defenders right now. So straight out of the bat, we have got Trent Alexander-Arnold at 7 million, a massive price decrease from, I believe, 8.5 last year, which was so expensive and basically ruled him out as an option. But thankfully so, because last year was not great with 3 goals and 5 assists. We don't really know what we're going to see with Arne Slot in his team this year. I believe last season his right back done good stuff for Feyenoord. It was a good outlet, plenty of assists in the team. But we don't really know until we see Trent come into the team whether he is going to be a great option or not. It's expensive at 7 million, considering he hasn't actually been in pre-season yet either. Looking at the fixtures, of course, that is where the true appeal is. Ipswich, Brentford, United. I actually think we're getting a bit carried away with ourselves. Not an easy game against Ipswich, who are back in the Premier League. That is going to be absolutely bouncing that stadium. Then we got Brentford at home, who are no mugs at all, followed by Man United away, which is always a tough fixture. And I do think in transitions, Man United will have the players to hurt Liverpool. After that, though, is where we want to piece that Liverpool defence. Forest at home, Bournemouth at home, Wolves away, Palace away. It's mixed. When I read them out, they don't sound as great as what I first thought, but we know that Trent offers that attacking potential that we want in our defenders. With the new bonus point system of defenders getting negative bonus points for every goal conceded, it kind of means even more important to get players from teams that have the potential to keep clean sheets and also the potential of attacking returns. And that's why it's really important maybe to go for these premium defenders, as some of the players that are going to keep conceding goals are just going to offer zero value for our respective teams. But Trent is always a consideration regardless, especially if you're going without Haaland or Salah. You're going to have the money available to go for that premium. Of course, Saliba is a consideration. He's on my watch list at 6 million. Don't really have to talk too much about him. But as of the time of recording, game weeks 1, game weeks 3 are fantastic. But I'm also not that inclined to go there because long-term the fixtures are not great. Even though I do fancy Arsenal in any game to keep a clean sheet, I personally think Saliba is not my top 6 million pick. And that's mainly because of this guy. Josko Vardiol, we have no idea whether he's going to replicate his attacking form last season, but if he does, 6 million is unbelievable value, and the fixtures long term I think are good. I fancy City in any game, and I think long term these fixtures are just incredible. And I think if you avoid somebody like Josko Vardiol and then he goes off early doors, this is a player that his price could absolutely skyrocket. We could see a situation where people go Trent, avoid Vardiol, Trent starts slow, Vardiol goes big, and we see huge sales in Trent to go Vardiol. And if you haven't gone there, his price, before we know it, we could blink and it'll be 6.2, 6.3 million. And I just think about it, and what we saw last season was incredible. He truly was the main threat in attack on that left-hand side. Are we going to see it once again? We don't have the answers to that. And that is why the watch list is so brilliant, because we can add players to it. We can take them off depending on what we see in pre-season. It is ever evolving. But if I see anything like last season, he's straight in the team, regardless, in the side. Some more players to consider. Robertson at 6 million, but again, I need to see something in pre-season to consider going there. Pedro Porro at 5.5. I believe this is the perfect player for your teams if you are of the thought process you're going to use a wild card early doors, because these two fixtures here are brilliant against Leicester and Everton at home. Beyond that are not great. Newcastle, Arsenal, Brentford, Man United, Brighton. I don't want a piece of Pedro Porro over that period. But if you're sat there right now thinking to yourself, wildcard game week 3 or 4 is on the cards, I strongly would consider Pedro Porro for your teams. I think he had a very mixed season alongside Spurs, and he still managed 3 goals and 8 assists. So I really do think Pedro Porro is a brilliant option for your teams if you're planning an early wildcard. I wouldn't want to bring him in with the thought of transferring him out in game week 3 or 4. That just doesn't feel like a good use of your transfers, especially from a side like Spurs, who haven't actually proven their worth right now in terms of defensive capabilities. I see FPL Chai in the chat. Hope you're doing well, mate. Any thoughts on the potential of Madrid for Trent? And yeah, I think that's a big one right now, mate. I think that kind of move, I don't feel like that's a deadline day move. I might be wrong, but of course, that's big funds. And I think we're going to know early doors with Arne Slot as a new manager. He's probably going to get an understanding of, is he going to be in my team? Because we cannot actually afford to have someone like Trent sitting on our team last day of the season in the transfer window to be sold. So I do feel like we're in a position right now with Trent where we'll probably get the understanding before game week 1 whether he is going to be an option, because that is the sort of price point where I don't think Real Madrid can just quickly spend that money. If he was priced at 30 million, that sort of money gets dropped on the last day of the season. But these big £100 million packages take a while to actually process. I don't think they can just drop it on the day and sign someone like a Trent. But we do need to keep an eye on the news for sure if there is going to be any involvements. There's only one 5 million defender in my team on the watch list, and that's going to be Munoz. I do think he's a brilliant option if you can go there. The fixtures are great. He obviously proved himself in a very small sample size. Only for 1,400 minutes, 4 assists. Really, really good numbers. I think if you're looking for an attacking defender, I'd almost be inclined to ignore Pedro Porro and just go for Munoz. I think he is a brilliant option for our teams. But again, it depends on your window. If you're planning a longer term wildcard, then Munoz is a brilliant pick for your side. Next up, the 4.5s. There are plenty of options. Concert, I think, is good. I think he'll benefit from the bonus point change because he got fouled loads last season, and that obviously benefits defenders this year. Fixtures are good long term. My only problem right now, of course, is that we are going to see the Champions League return in game week 4. Could we see rotation for Aston Villa players? That is going to be an issue, definitely. But Concert right now, very popular, and rightly so. Outside of this, Anderson, absolutely fine at 4.5 million. I think he's a good option. As I said, the fixtures are fine. Doesn't really excite us, though. This will be part of a rotation strategy, which we will be covering in a video next week, fingers crossed. Leif Davis, this is the perfect player if you're looking to maybe bench him for the opening 2 and you're planning to maybe push a wildcard back later on in the season. You could have premium like Trent, a 6 million like Gvardiol, and rotate Leif Davis and another 4.5 million alongside a 4 million option and have him come in for game week 3 at home against Fulham. But I don't love it. I want to see Ipswich in the Premier League right now because it could go one or two ways. They could either be horrific or McKenna could really get them going early doors and they could be a brilliant underdog team. Livramento's come onto the watch list as of last night. I don't think Trippier's going to leave necessarily, but I just cannot fathom that Livramento or Lewis Hall is not going to be on this list. And that is the first player that we're going to add live on this stream onto the watch list, and that is going to be Lewis Hall. I spoke about this in a previous video. Being a Chelsea fan, obviously, with the kit, I was devastated to see Lewis Hall sold from Chelsea last season in that weird deal. He's Chelsea's best left back by far. This is a future England left back that we are seeing right now. Technically incredible, offers brilliant stuff in the final third, very competent in possession, the perfect modern defender right now. And I just can't imagine him not displacing Dan Burn at some point this season. I think Eddie Howe, after watching podcasts, he's very, very loyal, listening to podcasts, very loyal to players, but also very much an attacking manager that likes to evolve his game and challenge himself. And I just can't believe that he's going to go into a second season with a defence of Burn, Botman once he returns, Fabian Schär and Trippier. I think this is a manager that's always testing himself. And I personally think there's a long-term plan for Lewis Hall to come into this Newcastle team. So I actually think Lewis Hall is a phenomenal option, as to Livramento. I think one of those will come into the team and completely displace people like Dan Burn as 4.5 million options. So those are massive considerations for our team. Aina, good option. We spoke about Carlos Miguel in goal. Obviously, Aina is going to be a good consideration for our teams at that price point. And again, some good fixture rotations out there for other teams. So please do have Aina on your radar. I think he will start for them. But again, I need to do a bit of analysis over this pre-season with Nottingham Forest's games. A couple more options in defence before we come on to the questions. Barco, he is my preference by far at Brighton. My issue with Harwood Bellis, currently 15% owned. Barco, currently 6% owned. We're in a position, of course, with 4 million defenders where if Harwood Bellis is invested by a lot of managers, he doesn't do well. And let's be real, Harwood Bellis being a centre-back, what are we truly expecting from this player? He's going to get negative bonus every time he concedes, offers very little offensively. And Southampton defensively, are we expecting much over this period? A couple of games, maybe in game weeks 2 and game weeks 5. Otherwise, I think they are going to concede in plenty of these games. And for that reason, I think Barco is just a much more exciting option. especially if you are going to plan a wildcard in game weeks 4 to 8, because we're not looking at this guy thinking we need him for the whole season. We only want him for the start of the season, and loads of people are saying, but what if Estupiñán returns? He will return, and he probably will get in the team, but that might not be come game week 6, 7, 8, and by then we'll be wildcarding him out of our teams. So that's why I think Barco right now is one of those players that I think you just have to jump on, because Harwood Bellis or Barco, if I said to you right now, one of these, we're going to blink and he's going to be 4.3 million, it's going to be Barco, isn't it? It's not going to be Harwood Bellis, for God's sake. So Barco is worth the punt in our teams, especially what we've seen in pre-season. So that's going to cover the defenders. I'm going to quickly go through some of the questions before we move into the midfielders, because I'm already taking far too much time of you guys. So please do, as always, if you are enjoying the video, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. It'd be awesome to have you on board this pre-season. So some of the chat in here, what have we got? Crown saying, if Trippier doesn't leave, and with Newcastle's opening fixtures, surely we can't forget the upside we got from him early on last season. 100%. I think Trippier will be a consideration for our teams, but at 6 million, he is a great option. I just think there's enough uncertainty right now to suggest that I would need Eddie Howe to come out and say that he is not leaving and there is no chance of him getting a big money move to a Saudi team. If that happens, then yes, I do think Trippier could emerge as an option for our sides. Yusuf is saying, Muric has one of the highest saves per game last season. Pope is also a good option. Yes, I do agree on that one, mate. Pope probably does deserve to be on this list. But the reason why he's not is because I truly do believe one of those 4.5 million options that you can see on your screens in Lewis Hall or Livramento will come out as better value than Nick Pope, for example. Forest defenders, Toffolo, Williams, yes, both good considerations. Even Murillo at 4.5 million. I currently have Aino because I saw good things last season and a little bit of attacking potential. So he is my preference right now until I do a bit of a deep dive on pre-season, which again, we will be updating the watch list as we progress throughout the pre-season. Livramento, yes, definitely could be a trap. I definitely need to see a bit more from the games to understand whether he is guaranteed the right back role or not. Because if Trippier does stay, then Livramento is going to be an avoid, because Trippier will get minutes, of course, in that Newcastle team. Cucurella, not a consideration for me. I'm avoiding a lot of the players that were in the Euro final because they haven't returned to the game. And also he played considerable minutes for Spain in the Euros. It wasn't one of those players like Cole Palmer who had limited minutes. I'm expecting Cucurella to get an extended leave. Man United players. This is a really good suggestion. So I haven't got many Man United players in general, it's worth noting. But if I just bring up a Man United player in general, Bruno Fernandes, sorry. Just looking at the fixtures in isolation right now. What we can see here is games that I don't really foresee many clean sheets. Fulham at home, I could see it. Brighton away, I'm not a huge fan of. Liverpool at home, I don't love. Southampton away, yeah, good, I can see it. Palace away, I don't love, because we could see the return of Mateta by then. And then in game week 6 and 7, Spurs and Aston Villa. So I don't really look at the Man United team and think it screams clean sheet potential. And we look at the price points for the defenders. Dalot at 5 million, I just don't really love the price point going there. Maguire, no, absolutely not. Shaw hasn't proved his fitness. Evans, Lindelof, Malacia, no. Martinez is the only one that we can really consider on our teams. But again, do I love the fixtures enough to pay for him at 4.5 million? As of right now, not really. I don't love it myself. Okay, so moving into the midfielders. Let me just check if I've got any more stuff in here. Love and Fantasy Football Ratings Drafts Part 2. Yes, that is coming Tuesday. Tuesday, there'll be an extended version as well as mini videos where I'm rating your teams. And I do need to say as well, it should be coming out tomorrow. A bit of an update on a FPL group that everybody can join for free, that they can get their teams rated and just generally have some FPL chat. So please do stick around for tomorrow's video where I will be updating you on that information, as it should be a great opportunity to do so. Is Semenyo a better pick than McGinn and Hudson-Odoi? No, I personally think Hudson-Odoi is my preference right now, especially with those mixed fixtures for Bournemouth. And is Cho my favourite at 5.5 million? that is a brilliant segue into my midfield section. So coming into midfielders, hopefully you can see them on your screens on the watch list. Mo Salah, of course, is on the watch list right now at 12.5 million. The fixtures are brilliant, long term, and even if you wildcard in game week 4, he's going to come into your team. In terms of Mo Salah as a player, I have no concerns about him. I know a lot of people think that he has dropped off. I still think this is a peak athlete right now, and I think he's still going to offer plenty in this Arnie Slot system. The big thing is, how does he adapt to it, and how did Liverpool adapt to it? That is the only major risk right now, because of course, a lot of people have the decision, Salah plus Haaland, Salah, Haaland, no Salah or Haaland. So there's a lot of deliberation right now. For me, I'm currently thinking that Haaland is a better option because I know exactly what I'm getting from him. I don't truly know what I'm getting from both Liverpool and Mo Salah right now. And for that reason, even though the fixtures are great, I am umming and ahhing about Mo Salah's involvement in my team as we speak. And of course, I will be updating you tomorrow my official team selection video where I've got a bit more of a clearer understanding of what exactly I want to do in my team with both game week 1 and my wildcard window, because that is going to really dictate how your game week 1 team looks. So, of course, Mo Salah's on the watch list. It's not a world where we're in. Now, Cole Palmer is on the watch list, but it's worth noting I haven't actually built a single draft with him in, and I think that's rightly so because we haven't seen him in pre-season. Chelsea have been very, very hit and miss. We saw them draw against Wrexham and lose 4-1 to Celtic. Now, the fixtures are brilliant for Cole Palmer, but unless I actually see him in pre-season, I'm not going there. 10.5 million for a player that hasn't even been seen in pre-season is not a good use of your money for me. Yes, you could expect him maybe just to walk straight into the team and be match fit, but it's very, very difficult to fully get up to Premier League standard. And I think he might take a couple of games if we don't see him in any of these games. But it's worth noting there is an expectation for him to feature in one of the final preseason games of this tour that Chelsea do have. So Palmer, of course, on the watch list, but hasn't been in any of my drafts. Same applies to Bukayo Saka. I actually need to see him pop up in this team for Arsenal before I even consider him in my options. And the one thing that has been in common with both Cole Palmer and Bukayo Saka is I think there are better value options in the game for the opening game weeks. I'm not sitting here saying that Odegaard or Nkunku, spoiler alert, are the two value options are going to be better over a 38 game week window. No, this is why it's so important. When we're building a team for game week 1, I think a lot of people think, oh, but Nkunku isn't better than Palmer. No, he probably isn't. But do I think he could be better than Palmer for the opening 4 games where Palmer's played 0 preseason minutes? I think the answer could be yes. And then that's where the wildcard, the free transfers come in handy, because if Nkunku is better than Palmer for 4 fixtures, but then Palmer returns and clearly is the better option, we can then address that after that period. We need to make sure we know that we're only looking at a small window for this game week 1 team. We're not trying to build a team that is going to be built for the next 5-6 game weeks in isolation. Now, Son's someone again that I need to give more consideration to. The opening 2 fixtures are great, but then I think to myself, do I really want him over this period? And the answer is probably no. But again, if I'm looking at a wildcard 4 option, then Son becomes more of an option. But I need to do a bit more of a deep dive on Son. Foden, same applies. Until I see him in a Man City shirt during pre-season, he is not going to be an option. And also it's worth noting, if I'm leaning towards a Haaland draft, then I don't want Foden in my team. I don't really feel confident enough to go for double Man City attack with so many other great options available. So if I go for no Haaland, I think Foden will be forced in. If I go for Haaland, I think I will avoid Foden, just not to double up on Man City with so many other great value midfielders in the game. Odegaard is the player that is really on my radar right now. I'm trying to build teams that have players that are actually really heavily involved in pre-season and also have FPL pedigree. And he ticks both boxes. It was a poor season for him with 8 goals and 11 assists. And I really think he was negatively impacted by the injuries that Arsenal had to an extent. What I mean by that is we had to see a change of Arteta's structure where he didn't rely on Zinchenko to invert into midfield. So we had to put Jorginho alongside Declan Rice. And it meant also Odegaard coming into deeper phases to help progress the ball in the first third. That meant we saw less of Odegaard in the final third. I think with this season, with the signing of Calafleury and also with Urin Timber, we're going to see them invert into midfield alongside maybe a Declan Rice, which will mean we will see Odegaard actually starting in those higher positions than what we saw last season. And straight away, if we're getting that connection of Odegaard plus Havertz plus Saka and those triangles forming that they weren't last season, then that suddenly makes 8.5 million Odegaard an amazing option for our teams. And I look at the fixtures, game week 1, brilliant. Game week 2, him feeding the balls beyond the Aston Villa high line. I could see that. And then I could also see Brighton at home, a decent return for Odegaard. As I mentioned, beyond that, not ideal. But if we're looking to wildcard in game week 4 potentially, I don't have to look beyond the Brighton fixture. And I do think, as of right now, Odegaard is a better option than Bukayo Saka. I'm not going to talk too much on Bruno Fernandes. I think he could be a great option. We know what he can do. You only have to look at the returns. 10 goals, 9 assists in a bad season is really solid. 8 and 9, 10-7, 18-14. He hasn't really put up huge numbers since the 2020-21 season. So I might want to see a little bit more from him in Man United for me to actually go there. But I think the fixtures offer value, definitely. Coming down the prices, Gordon at 7.5 is just my absolute top pick. I just think sometimes we overthink FPL. Is he a brilliant option? Yes. Did he deliver last year? Yes. Are Newcastle attacking? Yes. And are the fixtures good? Yes. Don't think we have to overthink it. Alexander Isak and Gordon are just unbelievable value picks in the game. And I think if we start sitting here saying Gordon might not be a good pick, I think that's when we start to ask ourselves, are we just overthinking the game? Because this is a guy who is the definition of overthinking in my mind. I have built drafts where I thought to myself, maybe I can have Martinelli at 0.5 cheaper than Gordon, even though I haven't seen anything from him in the last 12 to 16 months. The player that we saw in the 2022-23 season didn't really pop up last year, but I still think there is a player there. And I really do think with Arsenal, Arteta knows that the left back, the left side of centre mid and the left wing option really stagnated last year. It was probably the main reason why they didn't win the title. So I think one of two things can happen. Either he's going to address the left-sided midfield role and he's going to get Martinelli out of the team and he's going to get Trossard in full time, or he's going to fix the problem. He's going to get Martinelli started, and I think that is what's going to happen here. I think his directness and him actually being the deep man in that attack with Havertz coming to the ball at times, Saka coming to ball, Martinelli offers something completely different in this Arsenal team. And my big punt right now is that Martinelli is going to be the bandwagon early doors. I've put it out there, I'm going to clip it. I think Martinelli is going to be the early bandwagon, and this could be one of the best value midfielders in the game. You heard it here first. Right, we need to rattle through these. Eze is better than Martinelli at the time recording, just because of the talismanic theory. He is going to be everything in that Crystal Palace team, especially with the departure to Elise. Nkunku, rightly so, is highly, well, I say highly owned, only 15%. I do think he's better value than Palmer, and I do think he's a better game week 1 option than Palmer at the time recording. I don't think we need to talk too much about Nkunku because we know the pros and cons. This is an elite player who's had a big injury, and we also don't know the position in the team. But if we don't go for him in game week 1 and he goes big, you'll blink and that price will be 7 million. And all of a sudden you've lost loads of value on him. So just be cautious if you don't go with Nkunku. Finally, one of these two will pop off. I'm guaranteed that. Alexis McAllister or Dominic Szoboszlai will make a mockery of their 6.5 million price. With the tactics and the formation of Arne Slot, he likes to play 2-10s or split forwards. One of these two will operate in that role. We saw it with McAllister at Brighton in his first season, where he was progressed high up at the pitch and he delivered points. You can see McAllister's returns here. 10 goals in the 22-23 season. If we see that kind of McAllister in this Liverpool team, unbelievable value at 6.5 million. And I think Szoboszlai is also going to be a better option than what we saw. Right, last few picks. Kudos, 6.5. I think there are better options like Nkunku, but he's still on the list. The one that I'm excited about is Minter. I've seen a lot of people talk about him. For me, I think these fixtures are tough enough to just sit back, let him do his thing, and understand, first and foremost, whether he's up to scratch, and secondly, whether he actually gets the game time. If he ticks both those boxes, come game week 8, maybe not even then, he could be an option for our teams. But I need to see those two things ticked off before him being an option. And of course, Hudson-Odoi at 5.5 million. We all know what he can do. I think he is the best at that price point, and I think he is the best Nottingham Forest player right now. He had a brilliant back end of the season, 8 goals, 2 assists. Finally, Rodgers, 5 million, great. My main concern is the Champions League coming up. That could be a consideration for rotation for Unai Emery, so be cautious of that. And finally, now I can't lie, I know nothing about him. I know absolutely nothing about Lucas Bergvall, but I've heard good things. Very, very good things. A player that actually could break through in the Spurs team. And if you're in a position right now where you're building a 3-4-3 structure or a 4-4-2 team, and you know for a fact that your 3 forwards are going to play week in, week out regardless. You've got Watkins, Haaland, Isak. They're playing every week. And your 4 midfielders are playing every week. I look at the 4.5 million options in the game. And we're going to do this by ownership right now. Harry Winks, I mean, you just have to look at the goals and assists in his time in the Premier League. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the fixtures are mixed. I look at Yarmouk. Again, unproven. No real certainty on the fixtures. Terrible. Dendonka, I mean, for me right now, I just feel like at 4.5 million, if you're going to go there, take the punt on Lucas Bergvall. His ownership's going to be so low that you're not going to lose any value on him. And of all those players that I mentioned to you right now, similar to defenders of Barco, if I said to you right now, one of Harry Winks or Lucas Bergvall are going to be 4.7 million like that, it's going to be Lucas Bergvall. It's not going to be Harry Winks. So for that reason, if you're going to have a 4.5 million midfielder, I'd rather just take the punt on Bergvall, because your starting 11 should be strong enough that you're not going to need this midfielder in your team. So those are the midfielders. We're going to come up with the questions, and then we're going to wrap this up with the forwards before I let you off on your evenings. So I'm sure I've missed a lot of the chat right now, so let's just quickly go through some of this. Lots of stuff that I've missed, I do apologise. So my current chip strategy is not locked in. I think game week 4 I could wildcard. I think game week 6 I could wildcard, and I could leave it as late as game week 8 if I've hit it off with the right players early doors. I do like this strategy of being really aggressive. If we look at the fixtures here for the opening game weeks. So between game weeks, this is attack by the way, between game weeks 1 and 6, Liverpool, Fulham, Southampton, Forest, Brighton, you can see the players, the teams that we need to target for our sides. But if I am to adjust this right now, and I'm just looking at game weeks 1 to 3 with the plan of wildcarding in game week 4, we can see here Newcastle, amazing fixtures. Forest, great fixtures. Man City, decent fixtures. Liverpool, good fixtures. Arsenal, good fixtures. Wolves, Villa, Brighton. Gets difficult after that period. So I think what I do like is the option of maybe attacking the opening 3 with Newcastle, City, Arsenal players, and then wildcarding in a game week 4, because if we look at game week 4 to game week 8, different teams start to emerge. Brighton come up as an option. Liverpool pop up as an option once again. Villa have great fixtures where we're going to want a piece of Ollie Watkins, no doubt. Chelsea come back on the menu. So that is my current strategy, is to maybe wildcard between game weeks 4 and 6. But that's going to totally depend on if my team actually deliver in those opening game weeks. I could go horribly wrong and be struggling from the early doors. Thoughts on Minter? Hopefully I've covered that off for you, my friend. Ben, can't decide on what's your opinion. Gibbs, White, and Nkunku. I prefer Nkunku. Just that explosiveness I think he could offer in that Chelsea team. Rich is saying that he thinks Bergvall might not get regular minutes, which I can completely understand. But if it's a decision between Harry Winks and Bergvall, I think I just get a bit more excited by Bergvall than Harry Winks. But that maybe isn't the right mindset to have. Maybe you just want the guaranteed 2 minutes. Sorry, the 2-pointer that Harry Winks offers. Brighton play attacking football. Mintet will be mint. I do agree. FPL chart. Oh, Wonka, who's winning the league this year? Can I say Chelsea? No, of course not. I think winning the league this year, I need to see a little bit more from Arsenal in the transfer market. I think they could be a little bit short once again in attacking areas, especially if they're putting a lot of reliance on Bukayo Saka. And I do think they're one big midfield injury away from an Odegaard or a Rice to really derail their season early doors. It's boring to say Man City, as always. I think Man United have recruited really well, but they're about 2 seasons out from winning that league. And I think Newcastle could benefit with no European football for sure. Liverpool, I can't see it. So I think my natural thing is to default to Man City. I think this could be a great season, but I think the quality could be a little bit poor. I don't see Man City improving as a team, so I think we could see a bit of a stagnant season. But I probably will say Man City again, unfortunately. FPL chart in order. How do you place a top 6 this season? Early doors, but still. Again, very difficult. I probably would put City for 1. It will be Arsenal 2. I think it'll be City 1, Arsenal 2. Then I think we might see a good season from Newcastle once again. And I think we could see Newcastle come up 3. Spurs I'm interested in, but I'm a little bit concerned about their strength in depth. Chelsea are just anyone's guess right now, and Man United 4th. Spurs 5th. Liverpool Spurs 5th, 6th, and Chelsea 7th again. I don't see a good season from Chelsea once again. But which team will fight, because I already have Gibbs, White and Nkunku. Outside of that, hopefully the watch list helps you out. As I said, I think there are good options out there. I think Kudos could be consideration. And I wouldn't be stacking my team full of 6.5s, it's worth noting. Everton are a mess, mate. Yes, I do agree. Winks will get you 2 points 90% of the time. I agree. But also, I just don't really think that I want that in my team, because I want a player that offers a little bit of upside. 2 points is great, but it's not really that exciting. Szoboszlai, yes, I've covered that one off. I think he's a brilliant option. Just need to see a little bit in the pre-season. Do I think Newcastle double up? Is that maybe not optimal? No, I think it is optimal. I think it's brilliant for the opening 3 fixtures. Newcastle have proved that they're a very attacking team. I just need to make sure they don't lose some of the big players like Bruno Guimaraes. So finally, let's get into these forwards, because there are only a small amount of forwards that I've actually selected, but I think rightly so. So, Erling Haaland. Let's be real here. That there, 35%, will be 50 come game week 1. I can guarantee it, because what will happen is this. We'll see indifferent performances from Liverpool, from Man United, from Chelsea, that we'll start to say to ourselves, because of the new managers at these respective teams, can we actually know what we're getting ourselves into come game week 1? And the answer is no. So what's going to happen is we're going to come to game week 1, we're going to realise that Chelsea defensively are all over the place, and 4 goals were scored last season at Stamford Bridge. We're going to remember that Erling Haaland is a generational forward who had a bad season last year and got 27 goals. Yes, of course, we are maybe seeing a bit of a poorer Man City team than what we saw over the years. But what's going to happen is this. We're going to see him play against Chelsea, knowing he has Ipswich at home in game week 2, followed by West Ham in 3, Brentford at home in game week 4, not ideal in 5, but then Newcastle away and Fulham. I think this will just skyrocket to 50%. And right now, I prefer Erling Haaland over Mo Salah in my draft. Of course, this one is massively divided, because right now, Haaland being 15 million and Watkins the second most expensive at 9 is a big difference. And you can do a lot with that money. Whereas Mo Salah, if you go without him, you're only really saving 2 million. Because I think a lot of people will then just go to Cole Palmer at that price point. And then 2 million does a bit, but not a lot. Haaland, not going with him, does so much to your squad. But I also think he is just one of the best options available in the game. And I think he gives you that security in the opening weeks especially if we don't see Phil Foden in those opening few games or final games of pre-season. So, of course, if you're not going with Haaland, I think you have to go with Watkins. Yes, the opening 2 fixtures aren't great, but we saw last season that Watkins just delivers in every single fixture. The one thing I will say is this. He actually ended up getting, as you can see here, 37 games, 19 goals, 18 assists, which is absolutely ridiculous. So we basically got an attack and return every game. My one issue is this. He ended up getting, I believe, 37 goal contributions, which is absurd, from an expected goal involvement of 20.76. Now, just for a bit of context right now, by the way, that's 17 goal contribution difference. So if we were to then say he returns to the norm, we're going to see a massive change in his returns. Haaland, on the other hand, 27 goals scored, 8 assists. So obviously they're 35 goal contributions, and he had an expected goal involvement of 31.75. So again, slightly overperforming it, but you'd expect that in this Man City team because of, one, him being an elite finisher, and two, Man City just dominating games that they are realistically just going to put balls on a plate for him week in, week out. And also, he's an elite finisher, so he's going to score tough chances. So I would always expect his expected goal involvement to be a lot higher than that of an Aston Villa attacker. And I'm a little bit concerned that Watkins won't be able to replicate this, because 18 assists from 4 expected assists is just ridiculous. I can't see that happening once again. So it does beg the question, can he actually deliver another 200-point season? I think he can, but it's going to be tough, especially with the Champions League. But Watkins is there. Isak, one of the best value players in the game, no questions asked. I think it's just crazy if you go without him. Of course, I'm not sitting here saying he's essential, because that would be telling you how to play the game, but I don't really see any negative thing towards Alexander Isak. He's on penalties. Callum Wilson's carrying a knock in pre-season. 21 goals, 4 assists. The underlying numbers are great, and the fixtures are fantastic. I think it ticks all the boxes. Finally, Havertz 8 million, great if you want to go there. Probably prefer Odegaard, but I think Havertz is good. Richarlison, I would need to see so much from him to justify going there, but he's of course in there for the opening fixtures. Munoz at 6 million, again, good option, great price point. He's rivaling Chris Wood, good long-term fixtures. Wood, we discussed, 6 million, great fixtures. Only problem is, could be a rotation risk with Awoni if he does actually get fit in time for game week 1. But what of course I will say is 14 goals scored in 1800 minutes is absurd, and his underlying numbers were actually pretty decent as well. Finally, João Pedro, the man, the myth, the legend, the troll. Great option, tough fixtures. I for one would probably rather pay slightly more and go to a Wood or a Munoz than João Pedro until I actually see those minutes in the bank, because of course he didn't actually go on that pre-season tour. So that's the watch list. That is the current 45-man watch list. And as I mentioned, the whole point of the watch list, and the reason why I really do advocate you guys building your own watch list, is because it blocks all the noise. It means that you are just tunnel vision on those 40, 50 players that you think could be actively involved in your Game Week 1 squads. Avoid the team you can see on your screen. So this is an old team that I was using for some sort of video that will come out later on this week. So use the watch list. It's a brilliant tool. It gives you the opportunity to really just focus on those players, and then you're not going off tempting yourself in other directions. And as I said, the watch list is just ever evolving. So if we see something in pre-season, for example, let's say Oscar Bob continues an amazing pre-season. He then suddenly gets a quote from Pep saying he's ready, he is going to be my man. He goes straight into the watch list. And while we're talking about Oscar Bob, what is his actual price point? 5 million. I mean, if we see a big injury at Man City, this could be incredible, but obviously he isn't an option right now. So, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up there. The whole purpose of this was, of course, to go through my current watch list, the players that I'm considering for my team. Tomorrow is going to be my latest team selection video. I haven't done one for about a week. The plan is every Monday to drop a team selection video, because, of course, teams are changing. We're getting more information each and every day from pre-season. So we'll do that video tomorrow. we'll deep dive into my chip strategy and my starting 15 players. And I do feel like I'm getting closer, but I'm also very aware that the team is changing each and every week, and we need to be conscious of that. We can't be locking in players as of right now. All it takes is one injury, one quote from a manager, and it completely changes that squad. So I just need to say a massive thank you for those that have joined me on today's live stream. If you're watching it back and you have any questions, put them in the comment section. Of course, I will get to them and answer them for you. All of these to say, please do drop a like on the stream, or if you're watching it back, a like on the video. And of course, if you're not already, make sure you are subscribed for daily fantasy content, because that is what the channel is all about during pre-season. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow morning in the team selection video. Have an amazing day. Cheers.